Okay? So, what we've been doing in the past, and we extend this only once at the beginning of the meeting. So, once I offer this, and then you can choose to take it or not. And the offer is, if you would like to have your application continued to the next meeting, we can do that now. If I start the meeting, and as I hear the first application, you're in for the night, okay? So there is no, once I start, there is no, oh, wait a minute, I want to change my mind. So is there any of the applications who wish to have their application continued to the next meeting?
I believe we would, yeah.
Stand up and come up and introduce yourself for the, so we'll know who's speaking and for what application.
I don't know exactly what application. My name's Sean Sprague. We're looking for a zoning variance order.
Yep, 485
485
Endicott
Endicott Street.
East,
Okay,
first on board.
so you want to continue to the next meeting?
I think it would be in our best interest, yes.
Okay, very good. Let the record indicate that application
It is, oh God.
0084 is going to be continued to the next meeting based on short board.
Okay,
Excuse me, when was that next meeting?
was that December 19th, I believe? I can contact you, I
Yes.
believe it's the 19th.
It is the 19th.
Okay, yep, December 19th, we'll be in touch.
All right, great, thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else who wishes to have their application moved to the next meeting? Let the record indicate no one else wanted to take the offer. So, all the rest of the applications are in for the night. Now,
Contact us? Oh, you can contact us.
I'm gonna give a minute to let everybody.
So what do you think?
Wow.
Isn't that funny?
I can't guarantee that.
I haven't received word though anybody else, coming or not coming. I was surprised we were down one more member. But, feel free to contact us in between. Sorry about that.
A lot of us came from like long distances.
I'm sorry.
13 people came from, like one came from Florida. You know, some of them came from hundreds of miles.
We can take letters of testimony or emails. Obviously, some of these people won't be able to come back, but we'll take any kind of written testimony in the meantime. I'm sorry about that.
I'll restart again in just a second. You want this package back?
Well, we still have the extension for the solar garden.
No, I'm talking about for 485.
I can take that.
Cause don't need to have it printed out again, so.
Sure.
I put the letters and everything in
Oh,
there.
great.
Okay. So, next on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes. Is everybody got a chance to review? Do we have any changes, any additions, subtractions?
I make a
Corrections?
motion to accept them as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion, have a second. Any discussion of the motion? Therefore, all those in favor signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Motion is accepted. The minutes are accepted. Okay. Next on the agenda is extensions. Extension number 0021 SE Endicott Street East Solar Project Extension Request. If the applicant is here, please come forward, introduce yourself for the record, explain how we can help you, and we'll go from there.
Hi, I'm Adam Sandall. I'm a project manager at CMA Engineers. I'm representing NESG Laconia 1 Solar. We are requesting a 6-month extension of our zoning approval. We were here before the board 6 months ago requesting extensions of both our zoning approval and our planning board approval. The planning board approval is for 1 year, and the zoning approvals can only be approved as you know, 6-month extensions at a time. So this request would sync us up with the planning board approval. We're looking to go to construction here at the landfill next year
Okay.
in the spring.
Does that look pretty positive that the construction will start, bar any unforeseen?
Yeah, I mean, as far as we know, yeah, we're looking to go to construction next year in the spring. Yeah, targeting that spring construction.
Okay. Any questions? I don't have to open this to the public because it's an extension. Therefore, if there's no questions of the applicant, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for application 2019-002 for an extension for 614 Endicott Street, East Laconia, New Hampshire. This is a project that's been on the books for a bit, and going into this solar project seems to be reasonable in its scope and design. And I vote that we grant the extension. Do we read through everything?
No, basically what you're saying is a fact of finding has been that the application has been applied with the city in a timely manner before the extension expired, and that there's no major changes or minor changes to any of the application in itself. And for all practical purposes, it appears that construction should start unless there's any unforeseen happenings within the next 6 months or so. I think that's what,
Could not put it better myself.
so we have a motion,
Second.
we have a second. Discussion of the motion. What would be the date on that extension till?
Oh, gosh, 6 months from now, I think we've got that written down. That should be, what,
May 16th.
16.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by raising. Okay, passes 3-0. Thank you and have a good night and
Thank
good
you.
luck with your project.
Yes,
485 has been tabled to the next meeting. 92 Pine Street. Okay, that's, the next one is gonna be 0086, special exception, 92 Pine Street. Applicant is requesting a special exception from Article 5, uses, Section 235-26, uses permitted by special exception. Attachment 2, Table 1, Table of Permitted Use, residential use to allow for multifamily dwelling in the residential RG district where it is allowed by special exception. If the applicant is here, please come forward and introduce yourself for the record and tell us how we can help you.
My name is John Soldinsky. I'm looking to change the use of this building. It's been used in the past as a store, as a church. It's in a neighborhood that it wouldn't be outside the keeping of the neighborhood. There's multifamilies all around it. It presently has ample parking. As a matter of fact, we may even convert some of the parking areas to green space, but there's a need for housing. We're looking at 6 two-bedroom apartments, would stay within the footprint of the building, so we wouldn't need anything outside the footprint of the building. There's a rough design. I did it small, and I didn't get an architect just because it's so costly to do. Obviously, I would need that to get a building permit. And I think there's a need for housing, and the use, the current use, which was a church, it was my church, actually. It failed after COVID, and I don't know that a retail space would work there very well because it doesn't have a lot of traffic, you know, just regular people going by. So this is a use, it's gonna cost a lot of money to change it. So that's why I'm looking for 6 units. It's probably a minimum of a couple $100,000. I live in Samberton. It'll be local people that work there. I'm not gonna bring people from out of the general area. So it'll create some work and it'll create some needed housing.
Does this have, is this a 2-story building already?
Yes. The second story is structurally okay. There's no windows up there. On the part of the building that has a second story, I don't think the roof would be raised. On some of the building, it's only like single story, and there's a little bit of space, so that would all be brought up within the building requirements. Obviously, it wouldn't go higher than the maximum building height.
The maximum building height as it exists currently?
Yes.
It's the old Tyler Street Market.
What is the lot size?
0.29,
0.29, where are you finding that? I'm looking,
right here.
oh, there it is, thank you. I'm looking all over there. Thank you, 0.29, okay.
I didn't answer your question, but
That's all
you're
right.
welcome. There's adequate parking. There's more than adequate parking there. So it wouldn't even be taking any green space and turning it into parking. I think there's too much parking, and we probably would create some more green space. We're also asking for a variance? Do you do one thing at a time? Or, I don't know.
Is there gonna be a variance for if the house gets, if the roof goes up, does that create extra room, is that?
I don't think so. I think he's far enough away from the property lines that I think he'll be okay. But yeah, this is a two-step process. You will need a special exception on the concept to be multifamily. And then if you approve that, then he will need a variance for the number of units. Because it is a relatively small lot, so.
What would be the requirement?
For 6 units, you would need a full acre.
Right.
Which is a rarity in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't believe that it's outside what's there now. There's some 5 and 6 families on probably smaller lots than that.
So Dean, the only thing we're really looking at is the density piece, not the parking or,
It appears he has enough parking. He would need, for 6 units, he would need 9 parking spaces
Right.
required, as a minimum. So, yeah.
But as a unit, then you'd need frontage, front setback and stuff like that, which that has no front setback. Under a commercial use as it was and stuff, it would have been exempt versus now it would need a setback
Well, the structure is grandfathered.
It's a
as a
pre-existing condition.
commercial.
Well,
Just the building
the
itself.
the use is commercial, was commercial, right.
Right, so that's what
But the
made it
structure-
exempt by this.
Yeah, but the structure is grandfathered. It's been there for,
Right, a long time,
Yep.
20, 30, 40 years,
yeah,
if not longer.
yeah, yeah.
I know that you have, your diagram shows adequate
15, 20.
parking, but you've got 3 on the diagram that are right on the hill. And to me, that, I think is hazardous to put those 3 right where that hill comes down.
There's so much parking there, the plan can be changed.
Changed,
I just
yeah.
wanted to show you that
Yep.
there was adequate parking. And I know, because I went to the church, that we used to park over there and in the back.
Yeah, yeah.
So your concern, we're not creating something new that you're concerned with. It's not only usable, it's an existing use that has been used in the past.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm giving them a second because this is important.
I'm not in a rush. If you have any
Thank you
questions,
for your patience.
if you have any questions that I could help with, I'd be more than happy. when I filled out the application, some of the answers are redundant, but it seemed kind of difficult to answer the same thing, just a different way of having it written down.
So do we have any other questions at the moment?
No.
No? Okay, with that, you may sit just for a minute. Okay, I gotta open it up, it's a procedural thing. I gotta open it up to the public and ask if anybody from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. Please come forward at this time and introduce yourself for the record. Let the record indicate no one from the public wishes to speak for or against this application, therefore I bring it back to the board. There's two different applications before the board. One is for the use, and then one is for the density. We will vote on each one individually. Any further questions of the applicant?
No.
Any closing comments from the applicant?
I think there's a need for housing, every place. And I think this is, I think it's a good use for the lot and the neighborhood, and it'll create housing, and it'll create some jobs for a short period of time.
Okay.
Should I
Thank you.
stay up here, or do I sit back down?
Nope. At this point, I close it to the public and bring it to the board for discussion. Want to discuss the use? Special exception for the use?
It seems like it has the parking. The fact that it's a quarter of the size of what our current zoning allows in there, I'm just curious if this was in line with how we look to densify our neighborhoods.
I'm not sure. Multifamily by in of itself is probably not an issue of
Right.
fact, because if I had to look at the special exception, I do not see where it would create any unusual anomalies into the special exception myself. But the question would then become the heaviness of the use of 6 units. Because you can have a multifamily. A multifamily is 3+ units, if I'm not mistaken, but not necessarily have 6 units. Okay, that's why they're done separately, and one's done under one and special exception, and then the variance is done by itself, and it has its own set of criteria that it needs to meet. So that's, if we were looking at trying to do things, you would have to look at the special exception first and determine if it meets all the qualifications set forth. One, and I can read through them real quick. The use request is specifically authorized in this chapter, in which it is. The requested use will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety. I don't think the use in itself would create any more than a commercial site as it would be, as you would probably have, if it was a store, you would probably have more people crossing the street than you would if it was a residential dwelling, okay? Even though the location's right there at the peak of the hill, and you do have some blind spot there, I do think they have a crosswalk at the top of that hill. So that would be in plain sight of both people coming and going. The requested use will not overload any public water, drainage, or sewer system. In its present thing, I don't see that it would increase or decrease. The building square footage is not gonna change. It's on public water and public sewer, so that will not have of any significant increase, because both of them have adequate, we have adequate water, we have adequate sewer, so that should not be an issue. The requested use will not create excessive demand for multiple municipal police, fire, schools, or solid waste. They would still only be able to have solid waste as prescribed by the code within the city itself. Fire protection, it may or may not. I don't think it would increase it any more than it would if it was anything else of having a fire. The police, that depends on the clientele that stays in the place, so it's hard to determine that. So I would have to say it would not create any excessive demand, because if I actually asked for the history of that, there would be very little history at all of any undue services being extended to that property. It doesn't create, the requested use will not create hazard to the health, safety, or general welfare of the public, nor determine the use of or out of character with the adjacent neighborhood. And the character of that particular neighborhood, I'm not quite so sure. There's larger buildings with multiple units. There's homes that have been modified to accept multiple units. So not, to me personally now, this is how I'm speaking personally, I don't think the use would be out of character for the neighborhood, because there's already a multiple amount of usage along Pine Street in that area. And the requested use consistent with the spirit and intent of this chapter and the master plan. That is something each individual is gonna have to come up with. I don't see,
I was just gonna say, up in that neighborhood, are there, I know there, like the Bowden's, the building directly behind it, which was a school, I think has got 4 in it. Is there anything up there with 6, though? 6 seems to be rather
I
large.
don't, well, that's part of the variance. That's why I'm separating the two.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, that's okay. It's a good question. That's the density part. I'm only gonna speak to the
Use part.
use part, and that's why I clarified that
Mm-hmm.
you can get the use, and then we discuss the density of
Got it.
that use. Okay?
Mhm.
So, the use in itself is within the character
Absolutely.
of the neighborhood and stuff. And it's on a main road, it has good access, it has good flow, it's not gonna, create any issues with the schools or anything like that that I can see personally, and, you know, so I'm open to any
No,
discussion.
I agree, the use is in keeping with what is there.
Right. Mike, what do you think?
I would be inclined to support the use, which would be the
That's
special.
all we're talking about, yep.
Special exception,
That's all we're talking
right?
about.
So I would be inclined,
So, as a fact of finding, would we say our discussion then, is basically the motion that we've met? That this application, I'll add the words for approval to that, using our discussion as our motion is a fact of finding, and, ask that there be a second.
I second.
We have a second. Discussion of the motion. All those in favor of the motion signify with the raising of the hand. Okay, we got the use done. Now, the variance. The variance in itself has its own list of things that it has to meet, okay? First is the density of the property. Do we feel that 6 units is gonna be
it's one thing to think of 6 one-bedroom units. But 6 units in some that are 1, 2, or 3, I think leads to at least to a discussion of the density factor.
well,
It,
in a
six 3-bedrooms is different than 6 1-bedrooms.
right, it appears they're all 2 bedrooms, if I'm looking at this drawing correctly. Each floor has 3 2-bedrooms, which would mean you could have anywhere from 1 person on upwards to 4, 5. You could have roommates, which would signify 2 cars.
Yep.
You could have a husband and wife, which is gonna signify 2 cars. You'll have, a family with kids. You know, so you have quite a variety of opportunities there, okay?
I'm curious if And I'm not saying for or against you, I'm still looking
No,
for
we're
my
just talking.
finding of facts. I'm still
That we're
looking-
finding some of the facts.
Is it supported that we increase the density by that much? In what the community is looking for? I mean, certainly I can see the special exception,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
And I am just trying to be convinced in my own that, is it real that we want 6 units on a quarter acre or a third of an acre? And does it make a difference?
I think, in my experience, I can only do parallel type discussions. They could be in different zones, which means different things, but they have similarities in this situation, okay? If you were to take like the apartment down by the high school, which had less than optimal parking. We just had that come before the board a couple months ago. Okay, and one of the things that was done there was, it wasn't so much of a density issue as it was on parking and everything else associated with that. And what was discussed was the fact that if you were in a downtown district, okay, the parking portion is at will. So to associate like these apartments that are in the buildings down here, they don't have any parking.
Right.
Okay, it's first come, first serves, but they have 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and I'm assuming some efficiencies. I don't know their makeup, but they have a variety there. In these situations now comes, that's set up to accommodate that large amount of usage, okay, with the byways and roadways and stuff like that, that accommodates it, okay? Here, you have to ask yourself, with that amount of, does the same quantity justify on that smaller piece of property?
When I reflect on the neighborhood, I can see maybe 3-unit apartments up there, the
Mhm.
4 in the brick building, but 6, I don't see that in that neighborhood. So if I'm thinking of in what's around it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing 6 units.
Okay. And Mike, I take it you're,
And I'm sitting here reflecting, contemplating. I don't think it's not expanding the size of the building. It's in an area where you have the hospital, you're just above services, markets. I'm not necessarily adverse to it,
okay,
but once again,
with this in mind, I'm gonna speak to the applicant. I'm gonna open this back up and ask you a few questions, okay? Now, you've got an agreement on the multifamily use, okay, so that's done and said. Now, the question at hand is the 6 units, all right? And it appears that there's, without taking a vote, because as soon as I take a vote, then it's a done deal. But it appears that there's not support for 6 units. So what I can offer to you is you can stay with the 6 units and we'll vote on it, and wherever the dust lies, it lies. Or you can go back and contemplate it, because once we vote on this, then this, I don't think, can be reapplied for again.
Would you be allowed to reapply for less units,
Well, that
or it's the same
I
game?
think it kind of locks you a little bit.
Yeah.
So, before that's done, I would offer you the opportunity to go and think about that, all right? To see, run your numbers, do your thinking, and see if 6 units is the path you would like to take, okay? Because if that is gonna be the path, then we will continue our discussion, and then when we go for a vote, it'll be whatever it is. But I'm trying to extend an olive branch here and give you an opportunity to think about it, or it's your choice. You can
Can-
withdraw it and think about it.
Can I make a comment as
Absolutely.
far as why I'm looking for 6 units? Any piece of real estate is worth a number, but it's also to get it financed. It has something to do with the cash flow.
Mhm.
So the cash flow of a 3 or a 4 unit, because it's gonna be a couple $100,000 investment in there. So I have to realize that I'm gonna go to a bank and ask them to justify lending the money, and their first question is gonna be, what's the expected cash flow?
Right.
So-
And with that being said, unfortunately, New Hampshire law doesn't allow us to use your finance issues as a criteria for approving or disapproving the variance. So that's why I'm doing something that is not normally done. It's purely your choice.
Are you suggesting possibly tabling? To-
We can table this to give
next
him an
month.
opportunity, or he can withdraw it and then reapply again with a different approach. But if you feel that 6 is the unit, then that's fine. You can have a seat again, and we'll continue our discussion, and then we'll see where it falls, okay?
I don't know what to do, I'm thinking.
Okay.
I
I'll
just,
give you a minute. Just give him a minute.
if it doesn't work as a 6 unit, then it would probably go back to commercial, or something like that. It's gonna generate more traffic, probably, than an apartment, because people come in and go out maybe once or twice a day. If it's a commercial use, there's people going in and out all throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking myself, I may be looking personally like this works better for me, but that has nothing to do with this discussion. It's, it wouldn't work financially. And that's why I came up with the number of 6. And
Okay.
it seemed like 2 bedrooms, there wasn't any 3 bedrooms, not that, and I know that we're gonna protect how many people are gonna be in there, who's gonna come and who's gonna leave. But which has nothing to do with it, but to make this work and to be able to borrow the money to get
Okay.
it done,
Very good.
these were the numbers that I needed to see. And when I say need, It's
No,
not a
I
personal
understand the business
need.
side.
okay,
I truly understand the business side. So
okay.
that's why you don't see me disagreeing with you or anything, and I fully understand, but I was just trying to
Give me an opportunity to
opportunity
change my
for
mind.
something. So, okay,
Okay,
thank you. I'm gonna close it back to the public, and we'll finish our discussion of 6 units.
To me, that it's laid out the same on the second floor as the first floor. It's repeatable, and he has the parking.
So if I was to summarize this then, as a fact of finding, the variance would be contrary to the public interest of that area, or would not be?
I don't think it necessarily would be.
It would be contrary?
It would not be contrary.
It would not be contrary, okay. So, do you agree with that? Please, I need
Yes.
input from this.
Yep.
All right, so the spirit of the ordinance is being observed. Do we feel that the spirit of the ordinance is being observed with 6 units?
I do, in that it's providing what is one of the running topics in this community is having,
For an RS zone, in that particular zone, is the spirit of the ordinance for that zone in that area being observed?
I don't think so when it comes to density.
Okay? Continue thinking about it.
Yeah.
And we're discussing as
you know,
we're
I
going.
got,
Is substantial justice being done by approving it or disapproving it?
this is RS residential single.
No, it's RG.
RG.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
In that case, because I heard RS,
I'm sorry. I misspoke.
I'm once again more inclined that it's not outside of the intent.
It is outside of the
It
intent?
is not outside of the intent, if it's RG. And looking to create additional units,
Okay, 6 units.
6 units.
So it is, so as I'm gonna phrase this, substantial justice is being done by approving 6 units.
I'd say yes.
Okay, Marcia?
I'm not convinced.
Okay. The value of the surrounding properties are not diminished by approving the 6 units.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, in reality, we don't have any proof one way or the other. So, okay. Now here's the hardship.
Yeah.
Okay, literal enforcement of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship because of special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. A, there is no fair and substantial relationship between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application that provision to the property, and the proposed use is a reasonable one for 6 units. Did I read that correctly, Dean? Alternately, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguishes it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance. So, if it could be used with less density without an issue. So, the question would be, with 6 units, does it create, does it meet the hardship criteria?
If it's just flow, we know that that's not truly what we consider in hardship. It's not been considered in our others before. So monetary flow and income isn't necessarily a hardship.
That's correct.
It's hard to speak on that.
Well, does any other property, does it have any distinguishing features about that property that would say that any other property within that neighborhood would be allowed to have 6 units? Is there anything specific about that property that entitles it to 6 units where other properties would not be allowed to have 6 units? Based on a 1/4 acre, it's less than a 1/4 acre lot?
I think when you phrase it that way, I would say probably not.
Right.
So it doesn't meet the hardship criteria. Okay. So did we get an understanding of the findings of facts? All right. So I would like to go ahead, if there's no other discussion, make that into a motion. And it sounds like it's gonna be a motion of to not allow, disapprove, or whatever the correct word would be for that, is the motion based on the finding of facts of our discussion,
To deny the application.
to deny the application. Do I have a second?
I second.
We have a second. Discussion of the motion. There being none? All those in favor of the motion
Of dismissal.
of denial?
Right. Don't have to because of the way we spoke it out.
Okay? Your 6 units were denied, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Okay?
You have a blessed evening.
Well, it was a tough discussion. So, mark this up. Approve. 0. Denied. 3-0. And we have one more. Okay. He's been patiently waiting.
Bruins are down 1-0, but it's okay.
Okay. The next application is 0088 variance at 209 White Oaks Road. Request for a variance from Article 6, Section 235-35, side and rear setbacks, Attachment 3, Table 2, table of dimension requirements to allow a right side setback of 10 feet where 35 feet are required, and a rear setback of 10 feet where 50 feet are required to allow for the construction of a 10-by-10 shed in the rural corridor, R2 corridor. Applicant, please come up, introduce
here.
yourself.
Hi, my name's Nicholas Watts. I'm here on behalf of Francine Ray, the property owner. She's traveling to see family right now. And yeah, the variance she's requesting is that simple. It's the small property lot. Placing the shed with the restrictions that are in place currently would place the shed squarely in the middle of the backyard and almost abutting the house itself.
I visited your property.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanna, I'm just looking at this diagram here, and I noticed that in the backyard you have a stand of trees and there's like a swing set, and so is your property go beyond that tree line?
To the back, it is dead even with the tree line,
Okay.
just on the other side of it. And on the right side, that large tree is on her property.
Okay. Cause there's all this space way behind that tree line.
Yeah, the open fields are not theirs, no.
That's not
Yeah,
theirs,
that's
okay.
the, oh gosh, I don't know, the little fields, I believe, on the big farm, and then I know it got subdivided at some point in time for the other houses, but they were family at one time. I don't know who's there now.
I was just trying to get a picture in my head of
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah,
A
I mean, it would
lot.
be obstructed, the view of it would be obstructed by, from the neighbors by the trees that are there. So as long as the tree stand stays there.
yeah.
And it's, let's see what she was getting. She's getting a pretty nice shed. It's, built by Reed's Ferry, out of Merrimack. They make high-quality, long-lasting sheds. So, it'll look nice, even if they can't see it.
In this here, when I look at this, what is the setback on RR2? It's like another
They're here, right here.
70, front setback 75 feet. Does that make most of the house inside of the 75 feet?
Yep,
Yep.
So that's non-conforming already?
correct.
Yep.
Basically, on that diagram, the
The
little
circle,
circle is
Yep.
the area that would have to go and not need a variance.
doesn't leave a lot, does it?
No.
When she told me, I kinda laughed. I was like, really?
It's not a very convenient spot for,
No.
Any questions of the applicant? You may have a seat just for a microsecond.
Absolutely.
I'd like to open it up to the public and ask if anybody from the public would speak for or against this application. Please come forward at this time and introduce yourself for the record. Let the record indicate no one from the public wishes to speak for or against this application, therefore I bring it back to the board for any further questions? There being none, is there any closing comments you would like to offer?
No. I
Okay.
mean, speaks for itself. Approved, great, not, we'll find a way.
Very good. Thank you. With that, I'm gonna close it and bring it to the public and bring it to the board for discussion.
Whoop, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think what I'm seeing here is the hardship on this lot is setbacks. The lot was created previous to the RR2 setbacks and parameters. And so it truly gives a limited placement for a structure like this. At 10 by 10, it's under the 140 square feet of even needing a building permit, but it seems like a reasonable use.
So as a finding
Yeah,
of
findings
facts,
of
There we
fact.
go. Yep.
we think the variance is not contrary to the public interest in putting the shed in the location that is being requested by the applicant.
No, it is not contrary.
Okay, the spirit of the ordinance is being observed by allowing the applicant to put the shed in the location requested in the back right corner of the property.
Correct.
Substantial justice is being done by allowing them to put the shed in the corner of their property and not in the middle of their yard.
Very reasonable.
I concur.
The value of the surrounding properties are not diminished by the placement of the shed in the right corner of the property.
I have no idea, but I wouldn't think so.
Little enforcement, well, the hardship, we've already came to agree that based on the setbacks and the size of the lot and stuff, that the buildable area of the property is not appropriate for the project at hand, and therefore why the applicant was looking to use the back right corner of the property with a 10-foot setback on the rear and a 10-foot setback on the side. Did I say that correctly, or?
I think it's even more of a setback on one side, right? Was it 10 and 15 versus 10 and 10? Might be 10 and 10.
Says 10 and 10 on
10 and
the,
10 then? Okay, yeah.
If you can push that side over, that wouldn't hurt our feelings.
Yeah. I've been over there. I think we've got some wiggle room. I think 10 is just kind of like the minimum. I think it'll eventually be a little bit closer.
It couldn't be no more closer than
No,
that.
well,
You
further
mean
in.
further in to the
Inside.
property?
Yeah, further setback.
Yeah, that would, you know,
A
like
greater
15 by 15.
yeah. So, we had a discussion of the finding of facts, and with that, I would like to entertain that as a motion for approval of locating the shed in the back right corner with no less than 10 foot on the rear and 10 foot on the side.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Any discussion of the motion? There being none, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Enjoy your shed.
Well, thank you very much.
That was an easy one.
We get one every now and then.
The easy one had to wait to the end, huh? Patient. Did you fall asleep during our discussion?
Jeez. Focus like a laser.
All righty. Any other business before the board? It is coming up on Thanksgiving.
Yes, I wanted to let you know that Sheena will be sliding over to the conservation technician position. And we will start a search for a replacement for a zoning technician. So this is to help facilitate some career goals that Sheena would like to pursue.
Good for you.
Happy to do that within the department as best we can. She'll be doing both jobs for a while because the way things have been going, it may take us a while to find a replacement, but that's okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're gonna miss you.
She'll still be here.
I'm not gone for good.
She's at this one, she's at the other one.
Well, that's great, and I would also like to comment, I was able to attend your presentation on the state property, and I thought it was a very good, as detailed as one could make it, a very good presentation. And knowing what I know about developments and stuff, this is just the first baby step in a lot of baby steps that's gotta be accomplished. So, patience will be a virtue in this, type of situation, but I think as a kickoff meeting and everything, it was done very well.
I agree.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah.
I think the city is, and I will go so far as to say, is lucky to have someone like you to be in the driver's seat for the planning department. So I think speaks well for us as a town, city. We're not a town.
That's right.
Anything else before the board? There being none, I'd like to make a motion to
Motion to adjourn?
adjourn. Second, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
May everybody have a very good Thanksgiving.
Yes. You too. Sheena, I'll hand
So
mine,
let me know when that's
so she
turned
doesn't have
off.
to run that off again either. The second
I'll
test.